Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Paul, I'm with the Dicey Review, and today we're going to be learning how to play the 1 to 4 player route building flip and write game, Next Station London, released by Blue Orange Games. Next Station London comes with all of the components that you see here. With one exception, I will note that I replaced the wooden pencils that come in the base game with these pens. The game includes a pad of paper with maps of London, 11 total station cards separated out into street cards and underground cards, 5 shared objective cards, and 4 pencil power cards. To begin setup for the standard game, each player will receive a pad of paper. Each player will also receive one of the colored pencils or pens. All of the station cards will be shuffled and placed within reach of all players. And then the last player to have ridden on the underground will be the first player. Alternatively, you can also decide this randomly. It's also important to note that if playing with 3 players, during setup, the unused pen or pencil will be placed in between 2 of the players and it'll be used later. And if playing a 2-player game, the unused pencils will be placed to the left of both players and they'll be used later in the game, as we'll explain. The goal of this game is to score as many points as possible by optimizing different routes for 4 underground lines, each with their own color. The game will be played over 4 rounds, and each round, players will be drawing and optimizing a line that matches their pencil color. So for instance, in this first round, this player with the green pen would be starting and continuing their line beginning from the station that shows the green color. After this round ends, this player would then get a different color pen or pencil, and then they would start another line from that different color on the map of London. In this way, at the end of the game, everyone will have drawn their own network of 4 different lines in the city of London. Each round of the game will progress in this way. One player at the table will take the role of a controller and flip over the top card of the station deck. These cards will have symbols on them that determines a location that a player can draw to. All players will simultaneously draw in their network, matching this symbol of the card that's drawn. Players have to start from the station that matches their pencil or pen color, and then they have to draw a straight, direct line to a symbol that matches the card that was drawn. So for instance, this player would have to start from the green station because they have the green pen. They could then draw a straight line to a station that's connected to this station. For instance, they could draw a straight line to this circle station, or they could draw a straight line over to this circle station. You can see which stations can be drawn to each other by matching the dotted lines to the next station that you could draw to. So for instance, this player has a connected line to this circle station, but they couldn't draw to this station over here, number one because the symbol doesn't match, but there's also not a dotted line that connects these 2 stations. So for instance, the player could draw this line to this station here, and then their turn would be done. All players will simultaneously do this each time a card is drawn. The controller would then flip over the next card and players would do the same thing. Once players have more than one station with a line connecting them, they can then make a choice to draw from either end of their network. So for instance, this player could draw from this station to a different station that matches the symbol that was just overturned, or they could draw from this station to a different symbol that matches what was overturned. In this case, the player would only have one choice, drawing to this symbol here. Players would continue doing this with each new symbol that was overturned. So for instance, with this triangle that was overturned, this player could either draw to this triangle or this triangle because it's at the end of their network, and they could draw from this end of the network if a symbol were available, but in this particular case, there's no triangle that they could draw to. There are some station cards that have special symbols that need to be explained. For instance, this card, showing one of each symbol, is a wild card, and you can draw to any station with this card. This station card is a railroad switch card. This breaks the rule of having to draw from the end of one of your lines. When this card is drawn, immediately draw an additional card that would then show a symbol that can be drawn to just like normal. So for instance, a wild card was drawn, meaning you can draw to any symbol you want to. This card would allow you to split off and create a new section of your line from one of the middle sections. So for instance, normally when a player draws a wild card, they could draw from either end of their network to any symbol that they choose. With the railroad switch symbol, however, a player can choose any station within their network and draw to another station from that station. So for instance, a player wouldn't have to draw from here or here to another wild symbol. They could, for instance, pick this station and draw to a wild symbol, or pick this station and draw to a wild symbol, even though these aren't the end of their current network. So for instance, this player could choose this part of their network and draw to a different station using that wild symbol. It's important to note that this now creates 3 different ends of their network. So on a future turn, they could pick to draw from this end of their network, that end of their network, or that end of their network. There are a few construction rules to mention that you have to follow when drawing in addition to drawing from the end of your network. Drawing a station is always optional. You don't have to draw a station if you don't want to, and there may be some cases when a symbol is drawn that you can't draw to. If that occurs, you'll simply skip drawing a line this turn. Also, as we mentioned earlier in the video, the first station during each round always has to come from the station that matches your pen or pencil's color. There are a few different sites around the map with these small spikes around the circles, and these are known as tourist sites. Connecting to tourist sites will give you bonus points at the end of the game, and there's one tourist site in the middle of the map here. That's Central Station. It has a question mark, which means that you can draw to this site using any symbol that's drawn. It's also important to note that you can never cross over another line, regardless of the color. So for instance, if a player had drawn here with their purple pen and then drawn here, they wouldn't be able to cross this green line to draw up to here. You can, however, draw into other stations as long as you don't cross any lines. So for instance, the purple player could draw to this station, even though it's connected on another side by the green line. In fact, doing this can give you bonus points at the end of the game, having multiple colors going into the same station. It's also important to note that departure lines can be drawn into like normal stations using different colors. So for instance, the purple player drawing from their purple departure station could eventually draw up into this green station just like any other normal station. Once a player draws into this station, they could then continue that color route into a different station above or around, as long as they just don't cross any color lines. It's also important to note that you can never create a loop. So for instance, the green player couldn't draw here and then draw back into their green line, closing a loop. Lastly, I'll mention that if the railroad switch card is drawn as the first or second card of a round, before there's a middle of your line, if that makes sense, it's simply ignored and you draw another card to replace it. The controller will keep turning over cards until 5 of these pink underground cards have been revealed. Players will draw one final link in their line using this symbol, and then players will score points for their line based on a few different categories. First, players would score points for their line. The map is separated into 13 total districts, and depending on how many districts your line is in, that will affect your score at the end of each round. There are 9 main districts, as you can see, separated by these yellow lines in the middle, and there are 4 secondary districts separated by these small yellow boxes in each corner. First, you'll determine how many districts your line runs through. So in our example, the green line is in the middle district, top left, and this small secondary district in the corner for a total of 5 districts. You would write that number in this top box. You'll then find the district that has the most stations drawn to it by your line in this round. So in this example, this player with the green line drew into 4 stations in this district. That's the most in any of the districts that they've drawn into, so they would write 4 in this box here. In addition, each section of a player's line that crosses over the Thames River here in the middle would score them 2 points. So in this round, this player did that once, twice, 3 times for a total of 6 points in this box here. They would then multiply this box by this box and add this number to get their total score for the round. So in this case, 5 times 4 is 20, plus 6 for a total of 26 points. And finally, when scoring each round, a player will find out how many tourist sites they visited during the round, and they would then cross off circles equal to the number that they visited during the round. So in this case, this player went to 2 different tourist sites using the green line, so they'll cross off the first 2 circles in the tourist section. After scoring a line each round, players would then get ready to build their next underground line. They would pass the pen or pencil that they used to the player to their left, and the player to their right would pass them a new pen or pencil that they would use to draw from a new departure station in the next round. In a 3-player game, a player would pass their pencil to the empty space between one of the 2 players, and the appropriate player would take the previously existing pen from this space right here instead of receiving it directly from the player to their right. In a 2-player game, it would be similar, where a player would place their pen in the empty space between the 2 players, and this player would just gather the pen that was already there to use on their next turn, and pass their existing pen to the empty space here. Players would then begin the next round by shuffling the deck of cards and then turning them over one at a time, and doing the same thing that they did in previous rounds, but this round starting from a different color location depending on the color of their pen. After playing for 4 rounds, players would tally up their final scores. Players would total all of the points for their 4 lines, and then there are a couple of other categories where players will score points as well. First, players would write in the number of points on the lowest uncovered circle for tourist sites. So in our example, we've been able to cross off all of these boxes up to the 11, which means that we would score 11 points. Then players would score points for all of their interchange stations. These are stations where more than one line are running into that station. You get a varying number of points if you've run 2 lines into the same station, 3, or 4, as shown here in these green bubbles. This player currently has this station with 2 different color lines running into it, this station with 2 different color lines, as well as this station, and in the middle tourist station they have all 4 color lines running into the same station. After determining this, they would write the number of interchange stations in the applicable box here. Each of the interchange stations with 2 inputs would be worth 2 points, so a total of 6 here. Each 3-line interchange station would be worth 5, and each 4-line interchange station is worth 9 points, so this player would score a total of 15. After totaling these points, and these points, the player would reach their final score. The player with the highest point total would be the winner. And if there's a tie, the player who has the highest score for a single line is declared the winner. And if there's still a tie, the victory is shared. After playing the standard game for a while, if you want additional challenges, there are also advanced modules that can be added to the game to add more depth and complexity. More details about these advanced modules can be found in the rulebook. Alright everybody, that was our video. Thanks so much for watching. We hope that it was helpful and we hope that it was informative. If you have any questions about how to play the game, please comment below or email me directly at dicey@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer those questions for you if I can. Also, if you like the content that we're putting out, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and then click the bell icon to be notified whenever we put out new videos in the future. Alright everybody, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you at the table.